Hello.
I'm Bekky.
My name's Ben.
I'm Nathan.
We're travelling around the UK, we're meeting
People from a whole different range of perspectives
Who are within the Methodist tradition.
talking about a range of challenging issues.
So anyone who's just looking to find out more, this should be really helpful.
It's going to be one heck of a ride.
We're coming to see this guy, David Wilkinson, who is like this crazy world-renowned astrophysicist and theologian.
He's written books and stuff.
So we're here to find out science versus God. Thank you so much for taking time to speak to us, David. You know, the general question is there this conflict between science and Christianity?
Yeah, I think the first thing to say is that that conflict model between science and religion is actually quite new, by which I mean it's only about 100 years old. And it was created in the 19th century by a man called Thomas Henry Huxley, who was Darwin's bulldog, as he was called. And he took a lot of the Darwinian stuff and he pushed it in order to, for political purposes, really to widen the gap between science and religion. Once I begin to understand that, then it's not set in stone. The second thing is that I just have to live it. If you say Jesus is Lord, then he has to be Lord not only of what you do on a Sunday, but what you do Monday to Saturday. What does it mean for Jesus to be Lord over my science? So I need to know a little bit of history, and then I think I need to try and live it. One of the interesting things, of course, is where did science itself come from? Mm-hmm. Where do the laws of physics come from? So that when I look at the universe, I have some confidence there's going to be consistency between the two. Galileo and other Christians came along and said, just hold on a moment. If God can create the universe as he wants, he's free to do it, then the only way we know what the universe is like is if we look at the universe. That's the importance of observation, empirical science. And so when an atheist comes along and often asks the question, what has theology ever done for us? One of the answers is, it's given us the science by which you're now criticizing theology.
So would you say then that Christianity and science offer different kinds of explanations then?
So let's use an old illustration, which I use quite a lot, but it makes the point. What is a scientific definition of a kiss? Well, a kiss is the approach of two pairs of lips. It's a reciprocal transmission of carbon dioxide in microbes, and it's the juxtaposition of two orbicular muscles in a state of contraction. Now, for a scientist, that is a kiss.
Yeah.
If I go to my wife this evening and say to her, Alison, let me get together with you for a mutual transmission of carbon dioxide and microbes. It's true, but in terms of my wife, I need to talk about a kiss in terms of meaning, value, purpose, love. It's a complementary way of describing the same phenomenon. I was talking to a young undergraduate and in physics. So he said, how can you believe in facts in science and just throw all of those facts away and just have faith in Christianity? So I said, tell me, I said, you're a physicist, you're interested in facts. I said, have you ever looked at the historical facts for the life of Jesus of Nazareth, not just the Gospels, but the chroniclers outside the Gospel who talk about him? And I said, have you ever looked at the significance of the death of Jesus in terms of how that was interpreted just a few years after his death? What's the best model or explanation for the empty tomb, for the transformation of the disciples, for the growth of the early church? He said, even if I looked at it, it wouldn't change my mind, because dead people don't rise from the dead. Often scientists don't realize just how much evidence there is for the Christian faith. Unanswered questions are okay. As a scientist, you see, you live with unanswered questions. This is a thing that lots of people don't realize, that most scientific theories, when we talk about the really big scientific theories, like the origin of the universe, you have evidence for and you have evidence against. And you look at the weight of that evidence and you make a judgment whether it's a good model or not. And you'll still have unanswered questions, and sometimes you hold those unanswered questions because of the weight of the evidence. So how does the resurrection work? And as a scientist, I have no idea. But I know that there's evidence for the resurrection. So I'm prepared to hold the resurrection, even if I can't fully understand how it works, because of the weight of that evidence.
So I'm not from a Methodist background at all, and you're obviously Methodist minister. So I wonder if you could just shed a bit of light on what that brings to your faith and your teaching of science as well.
What really gets me about John Wesley was his ability to allow that Bible-believing tradition to be in dialogue with everything that was going on around him. So something about the experience of God in the now, in the present, was very important to Wesley. He saw that the Holy Spirit was working not just in the believer, but even before that, so that the Holy Spirit went before the decision to become a Christian in people. And certainly his ability to understand that humans have freedom was a really important thing. Now, for Wesley, that gave him a particular interest in understanding science, because for many Christians, people began to believe that the universe was a bit like a clock, completely predetermined. The problem with that is, if God makes a perfect watch, does he have any right to come back and mess it up, intervene? Whereas Wesley believed that God had the freedom to work in the world. And so you've got a number of things here feeding in to, I think, a very lively interest in holding science and his faith together.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you so much for spending the time, out of your busy schedule to speak to us. It's been really helpful.
It's been an absolute pleasure, thank you.
We're rolling. Hello. So we've talked about Christianity and science. Things that we've taken away from that, then, I suppose, we're thinking about there's not this supposed contradiction, right?
You can be thoroughly involved in science and really well learned about science, but also have a really active faith in God.
Yeah,
and you can tell he's really passionate about his relationship with God, but also with what science can teach him.
Yeah. And something that I found really interesting was that there's actually this complement between science
it's
and
not even that it's just
Christianity.
neutral.
It's
not in conflict, but they're actually to be a Christian gives you an amazing kind of solid ground for doing science.
Yeah.
And history shows that. And it's kind of like this, he was saying it's this modern thing, right? That there's this contradiction between science and God. And I think it's like an act of worship, the heavens declare the glory of God. It's like the more you study science, the more you actually see the greatness of God. And that's just a pretty amazing thing. So when we're sat in science lessons or at uni or something, there's literally no reason to be worried that they conflict, because they just don't.
No, they don't.